Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Teach, Sleep, Repeat. My name is Dylan.
And my name is Hayden.
And we are separate places. We are not together. We are apart. Hayden, my heart grows fonder.
I don't know how I cope without you here.
No, I'm joking. It's nicer actually. You can breathe in this room without you sat next to me. Hello mate, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. You've disturbed me from a beautiful cuddle with my daughter, but the podcast is apparently more important. So cheers, mate.
Yep. Correct, it is. And all them customers out there can't be let down by you wanting to be a good dad. I want to hug my daughter. Tough.
Some of the older listeners might be like, hey, get back to work. You've had your 2 weeks off.
I know, honestly. We've had paternity. Paternity is designed to be more than enough time for a man to sort out what they need to sort out. And it's just down to our partners now, right?
My favourite bit is when they can't do anything for like 6 weeks. They're not even allowed to drive, but we have to go back to work within 2. So they're just 4 weeks where it's like, hope nothing happens.
As time
you
can't
goes, drive.
It's true, but as time goes on, beforehand I was very idealistic, and I still agree it's much, much harder for the woman. But I don't think I realised how hard it is for us. Like, it is actually really tricky trying to work and do stuff. It is, though.
Yeah, it's just fun. It's just so funny hearing a man put it back to, but it's just tougher. It's just tougher for us,
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I think I underestimated how hard it would still be.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. I just want to take the mick. It's funny. To try and paint you as like.
I just wanted you to crack and then admit that you were taking the mick, and now I'm happy. That's all.
Yeah. No, I agree though.
Anyway, stop talking now, please. Thank you. We've got a guest, as you know. You've probably seen you've definitely seen the title of this episode. So we do have a guest coming up. But before we get into that, Hayden, we are just going to very quickly catch up with each other. How was your week, pal?
Well, it was my first week back at school. Full week, and for a full week, I mean 3 days. But I tell you what,
that in again. By the way, everyone, full week is 3 days.
I don't want to ever give the illusion where someone's like, he hasn't done a full week. So just okay, we do 3 days at school, but it was a nice 3 days because it was the last week of term, so I had a nice time. I was able to get home at reasonable times every single day because every single day there was at least something happening, which just took away a bit of marking. And we had a nice week. But it was lovely. I like to see the kids. They were really happy. I quite enjoyed being there. I did want to be at home, but I did enjoy being there as well. It's a weird feeling. I don't know about you.
You prefer work to your daughter?
Oh, no, Dylan, that's not what I'm saying. But I know you, when you got back to work, you were like itching to go home every day. Is that still
straight back into the grind? You kind of had a different experience, I suppose, where we've been doing festive things.
Yeah, exactly. And now we're on Christmas break, so I can't really complain. But other than that, lots of pooing, lots of peeing. It's all the same stuff, really, with a newborn, isn't it? Yeah, from her as well. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'll tell you one funny story. Gave her a bath today. Oh, yeah. So put her in the bath. She'd just done a poo, so we're like, here we go. Clever parents, eh? Yeah, put her in the bath, and she was smiling at us, and we nearly cried with happiness, right? Because she's nearly 4 weeks old, and we were like, oh my God, she's like starting to smile really early. This is so sweet. And she wasn't screaming in the bath like last time she screamed. And we were like, oh man, this is so cute. And we were looking at each other like, oh, our little baby, like she's so sweet. And then she just sharted, but it was like a proper like ripple through the bath, just completely ruined the bath. Had to take her out, clean her up, make a new bath. Yeah, so that was quite funny.
If there's a smile pre 6 weeks, do not fall into the trap. Okay, do not do it.
You know what they say? They don't smile before Christmas, right? Something like
that. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Anyway, that's it. Nothing interesting. You?
Not much really. I was also in school, just going through that slog. But that's not really news anymore. That's just my life now. Back to work. There was one thing came in a post today. I thought it was quite interesting. A little something. If you're watching, you'll be able to see it right here. A little mug. It says Steph's Pat Lunch on it. Anyone who doesn't know, Steph's Pat Lunch is a TV show daily. And the reason I got one of them is because I won the weekly challenge on the television the other day.
Nice. You haven't actually told me anything about it, so please do.
No. I was kind of hoping just to go under the radar a bit because it's the kind of thing, it goes out at like 2 p.m. on a weekday. And I was like, this is cool because I can just go on. It's on Zoom, so I just sat in my own house. Could just go on, do it, and then no one will know anything about it, see how it goes. Went on, immediately had like 3 messages on my phone. Were you on telly? Were you on the TV?
Oh, really?
Were you on telly? Someone's messaged me saying your brother was on telly. And I was like, what? Who's watching Steph's Pat Lunch? Like, I'm sure it's a great show. But
so it's already aired then?
That?
It's already been and done that, aired already?
Yeah, it was live. It was live. I went live
Oh,
on television doing a Zoom call, and it was just a very basic quiz show where you're given 2 pictures and you have to work out what it is. For example, it would give you a milkshake and a spear, and it would say, "Who is this playwright?" And it would be Shakespeare.
Very
So
good.
the gist of it was one person each day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The top 2 people who get the most in a minute go to the grand final in the studio on Friday. So for a prize. I was Thursday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday all got 5 in 60 seconds. I got 8, so I won the week. And they're like, well done, you won yourself one of these mugs. That's lovely. By the way, can you come to the studio tomorrow? It's in Leeds.
Yeah.
No, no, I can't. Not only was my cousin down visiting, obviously we've got Rory now. I applied for this a while ago. I didn't quite really take into account how far away Leeds was, and I just had to be like, no.
For context,
sorry.
we live in southeast Kent, so right at the bottom of the country.
It was a 5-hour drive. And on the phone on Thursday, she was basically like, we can get you a train right now up to Leeds. And I was like, what? Like, my cousin's down visiting. Rory's like, I can't just leave Rory at the drop of a hat.
I love the idea of her being on loudspeaker and you just turn around and Lauren is just looking at you with Rory like, no, you are not going to Leeds.
As always, Lauren was very like, oh, it's fine. And I was like, no, it's not. This is not fine. Of course I'm not going. So obviously I didn't go. But I did get what I came for, which was Steph's Pat Lunch mug. So winner, chicken dinner.
Nice. I got one of them as well, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, that's immediately going in the bin.
Yeah, didn't go on the show.
Anyway, Hayden, we've got Martin Malone coming on. Teachers PT.
Yes.
If you haven't heard or seen him before, guys listening now, then do check out down in the description because we've linked to his Instagram. It's really interesting. He is obviously a personal trainer. His background is that he worked in a primary school for about a decade, and now he's become a personal trainer to teachers. He's really passionate about well-being and fitness. And we've had the chat with him. And it went really well. Hayden, what were you looking to get out of it? Because we learned a lot, I think.
I mean, I was coming from a very selfish angle, not going to lie, Dylan. I just wanted to get some tips for me, but I'm hoping that I can relate to, a lot of you guys out there as well. You get 10 years in teaching, your health goes down the drain a bit, especially if you've had kids or whatever. You stop looking after yourself as much. So I just wanted to get some little pointers really from him to get started with, because I'm very all or nothing. And I find it hard to get that middle ground where it's like, well, just do this one thing and that might actually help. And I think he did that. I feel like I've finished the conversation and I was like, do you know what? Actually, I reckon I can start looking after myself a bit better. So hopefully you guys will experience that as well when you listen through the conversation. And yeah, we'd like to hear your thoughts as well. Like, what are you going to do? If anything, maybe you're just super fit already. And you're like, that's fine. I'll just get some more tips, compare it with my fitness routine. I don't know.
There's no such thing as a fitness routine over here.
A what?
Does not exist. A what now? Sorry, what?
Fitness? What is this word?
The fitness monster? No, I've never heard of her. Before we lose our mind, Hayden, shall we just wrap up this introduction and get talking to Martin? Guys, thank you for clicking on. Thank you for listening. And enjoyed. I was going to say goodbye.
And do the jingle.
Okay, guys, we're here with Martin, Teachers PT. We are so excited, Martin. If you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself, your background, and what it is you offer, that'd be great.
Hey, yeah. So, as I said, I'm Martin, Teachers PT. And I guess how it all come about was almost by accident me becoming the Teachers PT. So, I was a primary school teacher for like a decade. And about 2 years in, I kind of noticed that I'd put on a lot of weight, like a lot of weight. And I just remember thinking, like, this is 2 years in, like, what's life going to be like? So I thought, can't do this at all. So I thought, well, I'm going to have to sort it out. So I got my own, like, fitness coach. I was like, I'm still living at home. I was like, going to invest in this, and just got him to teach me it all. And it really annoyed me how easy it was. Like,
that's good.
And that's not me saying like, oh, I was such a natural at it. Like, I was never really a natural with sports. I've got no hand-eye coordination or anything like that. It was just, it's so simple. It's almost one of those things though, that online, I think it's so simple that everyone tries to have their own spin on it, and all the spins just mesh together and doesn't work. Little bit like teaching. You get a load of people at the very top who hardly taught or never taught at all, and they make all the rules because they were kind of in the classroom for like as a kid. Like they saw teachers, and and I was like, oh, so fitness wise, I was like, oh, this is really simple. Then I wanted to kind of expand my knowledge on it a bit more, so I did the personal training qualification. Needed guinea pigs for that, so I had a couple of mates and a couple of people that I knew from schools doing it. They got really good results. Then their mate asked, helped them, and then all of a sudden I had like this little side hustle.
Yeah.
And kind of, I was like, oh, do I take the leap? What should I do? And I remember my mum saying, listen, if you want to go take the leap, go for it. Like, you can be a supply teacher. If it all bombs, you be a supply teacher, you've still got a steady wage coming in, and then you just get a job later on. And I was like, yeah, go for it. So I handed my notice in and finished at Christmas.
Ooh.
Finished at Christmas. January started to pick up. And then with like little bit of supply going on in the background, February was when COVID was announced. And all schools shut. So the gym I was working in,
bringing that supply,
and the supply all gone. And I was like, "Oh, great, that's good." And then I kind of threw myself into more online, and that's where it kind of, it become working with teachers, because to me, no one knows how tough teaching is till they've done it. And the biggest wake-up call for me with that was the 3 weeks I spent on the gym floor, when I was up to about 40 hours a week, working 40 hours a week, do training with people. And this other PT come to me and he said, I don't know how you do it. And I was like, do what? He was like, 40 hours is just, it's so many. Like, I do 25 and I'm done. And I thought, this is a holiday.
Yeah. Where's this is for 40 hours?
I was walking out like, it's 6 o'clock and I'm done.
Yeah. And I've not got any marking to do.
Yeah. So I was just like, and it just kind of grew from there. And I think the people I've worked with and everything like that, the response and everything's been really good, because it's what I was saying at the start. It is really simple, but you have to navigate it around a complicated life. And I did that for 10 years myself.
Yeah.
So I knew I'd say 80% of the problems. And then I spent the last 4 years working with hundreds of teachers, where I've tackled 99% of the other problems now as well. Because it is that balance. And that to me is kind of what I do. I work with people one-to-one, giving them support and structure that they need to fit it around their life. Because
it's music to my ears hearing you say at the beginning of this conversation, it was just easy,
Yeah.
Because in my head, it's the hardest task ever. And I was really looking forward to chatting to you today, because I am at that point that maybe you were you got there 2 years in. I let it fester for another sort of 6, 7, 8 years before I'm like, I really should sort this out. Sat here sucking my stomach in But knowing that it's easy, by the end of this podcast episode, hopefully myself in a selfish way and our listeners can have a couple of things where they go away and think, oh, actually, maybe I should try and tackle this. And that's kind of our goal, I guess, and my goal.
That's it. Yeah. I think, as I say, that's the biggest message I'd give to anyone, that it is easy. Well, do you know what? I'd probably change that. I wouldn't say it's easy. It's simple. That's where the problem is. And I think because there's so much misinformation out there, people don't want to commit properly. And then, you've struggled with something for ages, you get told that here's this really simple way to do it.
Yeah.
But you don't want to commit to it, because you don't want to put in that effort that simple one does, especially when you're teaching, because you give up so much of your life already. Do you really want to give up more of it to not have any results?
Yeah.
And it's that thing, but you start seeing them, and then that confidence just grows and builds, and that's where it snowballs.
So I've seen. So I was looking on your Instagram, and I was looking through all of the results, and they're really cool to look at because you get to see the before and after. I don't know how long those time periods are, but they look really good. Me and Lauren were looking through them, and she was like, "Yeah, let's let's get chatting." And I guess the first thing that popped into my head when I was looking at that though is, what is the biggest barrier? Because you will have seen this now, working with teachers time and time again. What is that massive barrier that stops us doing it?
Yeah, it's going to sound stupid. The biggest barrier is school. And I think that actually showed with the number of teachers who got fit and healthy during lockdown. Like, I know schools were still open, but it seemed for 90% a lot more of a balanced lifestyle. And just naturally, they just leaned into like, oh, well, I'm going to go on more walks, or I'm going to do more HIIT classes, or I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I'm going to start cooking more from scratch. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest one for me. It's working on that balance with school and treating it a little bit like weight loss. Like, I know everyone would love to lose, like, if you've got 2 stone to lose it in a week and you'd feel great, but it's not going to happen. You're probably going to lose a pound or 2 a week. And to me, that's what like school balance should be as well. Whenever I'm chatting with anyone, talking with someone, average teacher's probably doing about 60, 70 hours. You aren't going to go from 60, 70 hours to 40 hours overnight.
No.
But you can get from 70 hours to 68 to 66, 64. And after a whole school year doing it, you're down from 70 to 58 hours. But then the next year you do it again, and then you're at like, 44, like 46, 44. And it's just slowly bringing that balance there to bring everything else in.
Yeah. So do you get quite involved with that then? Like, do you see your role as very much not just saying, here are some things you can do to be fit, but actually let's work together on sorting out your work-life balance? Like, do you get quite heavily involved with that, or do you?
That's the big one to me. So like, everyone that works with me will have a check-in, and it'll be a quite simple check-in. I always do it of like, it's literally on WhatsApp, and it's literally like, how's your week going? Because the amount of data that teachers have to do, could you imagine like, you just sign up with me and I'm like, right, every week, here's this Excel formula. I want you to write down every calorie, every protein, every step, every litre of water that you have, and put it in this. You do for a week. Wherever say, listen, we've got a food structure in place, so you know what to eat without thinking.
Yeah.
If you's a day where you're getting a bit bored of it, you're going to have to track properly on that day. At the end of the week, how'd you get on? Do you stick to it? Yeah, I stuck to it. Or, I did, but, there was a couple of nights when I had a couple of chocolate bars. Okay, that's about 200 calories. Why do you think you were having them? Chatting through that way. And then every half term, we're jumping on a call and just chatting. And that's the biggest one for me. It's great when teachers lose weight, but it's I love it more when they're challenging stuff, when they're saying no. Like, I had a girl who worked with me where their reports were like 4 sides of A4. And they'd done them for years. And I was like, why'd you do that? And she was like, I don't know, they've just always done it. And I said, I've spoke to loads of schools doing this, and you've got the most intense ones. And she's like, oh, do we? And then she spoke to the head, and the head was like, oh, maybe we can kind of change it up. And 2 years later, their reports were 1 A4 sheet. Do you know, like, all of a sudden, that's 2 weeks of work just gone.
Yeah. It's a huge part of some, why we do this podcast as well. And this is, I think, what resonated when we saw your content online, because it is a really holistic picture that you put across in terms of the health of the teacher, because there is this balance, and it's a lot more recently. There's been more of a kind of magnifying glass on mental well-being as well. And this kind of balance between, as a teacher, and I think as a professional, I think I've got friends who listen to the podcast who work in offices in London and work in different aspects, which are just as stressful. And I think it's really easy to get caught into that rut of being mental well-being not being kind of given the light it deserves, which means you're never ever going to be able then to focus on your physical well-being. Like, how intertwined do you think they are?
I think you can't do one without the other. I think you can, but it would cause more damage than good. Like, I've worked with people who their outlet is the gym, and they go for like 2 hours a night, and they'll spend an hour running on the treadmill, and it's like, no, like, you're just avoiding a problem.
You're right.
You're not fit. You're not healthy. You're just going to the gym and killing yourself.
Yeah.
You know, or if you're really good at sticking to your diet, but like Ofsted come in and I go, oh, how'd you get on? And you're like, yeah, stuck to all my meals, like didn't waver, they're gone. Now I'm just going to go. It'd be like, right, like you're masking this rather than doing it. It's like it's coming up to Christmas at the minute.
Yeah.
Don't know whether you release this before or after Christmas, but
no, it'll be before.
It is coming up before it's a Christmas. And to me, like, you should be able to enjoy those treats without going overboard. And it's not that thing of like, you know, where people go, oh, you can count this chocolate and you can have this. To me, you're in a great place when there's a tub of sweets or there's a load of cake there and you can see it and go, oh, I wouldn't mind some of that. And you have some of it and go, oh, I'm done. Rather than, right, this is the last time I'm ever going to have these, so I'll eat them all. And then
that's me.
That's it done. Right. And then the next day, you buy another one.
Right, I'm going to give you a scenario right now because you just described me. So, right, on your new project, okay, in this scenario, what do you do? Because I think Dylan's a bit like this as well, right? I'm very, very, very all or nothing. I don't know if I represent many people. I don't know if a lot of people are like this.
I think it's a super teacher thing, all or nothing.
Yeah.
All or nothing. It's all the time. Everything in my life is all or nothing. So I'm either absolutely smashing a diet and I'm doing it completely, right? But I hate it because I love eating. I love eating chocolate. That's my pet. That's my terrible thing. And I find that every single time I do a diet, whether it's I've tried different things, I fail within about 3 months, right? Because one day I'll slip. And then because I've slipped, it's like, well, now that I've slipped, I might as well not do the diet at all. And because I'm not doing it, I'll eat the whole box of Heroes rather than one. Like, how do you tackle people like that? Because we're stubborn, right? Basically. What's your approach?
To me, I think it's like, it's never going to be solved like overnight, but it's bringing in things slowly. So I think one of the best things people can do in that situation is track calories first without being on a diet.
Okay.
So literally just like start tracking.
Yeah.
You know, just don't worry about how much you're eating. Just give yourself, I don't know, a limit of like 3,500 calories a day. And what you'll find is most days that you'll probably stop when you're full most days. And you might have the odd day where you'll go up and up. And it's just almost healing that relationship with food in that sense of knowing that a couple of chocolates here aren't going to do any damage and really kind of building that way. And then with that, kind of starting to ask yourself questions. And none of the questions should be to stop yourself from having stuff, but almost to take yourself out the moment. So like asking yourself, well, why am I having this chocolate bar? Am I having it because I'm hungry? Or am I having it because I've just had an email off a parent and now I'm stressed?
Yeah, just craving it now.
I remember a girl I was working with and we'd had a couple of chats and stuff like that. And she sent me a message and I was buzzing with it because she said the head come to her and was like, right, we've got no one to do this project and there's no extra time to do it, but you need to get it done. And she was really annoyed by it, but she was just a yes person. So she said, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And she went to her room, she got out the biscuit tin, and she said she'd just nail biscuits till they were gone. And then she'd feel lousy still.
Yeah.
But she sat there and she just thought, why am I having these biscuits? And she thought, well, I'm having these biscuits because I didn't say to the head what I wanted to say. So now I'm upset. And these are going to cheer me up. And then she said, and then I thought, well, will they cheer me up?
Yeah,
she was like,
exactly.
No. She was like, well, what will cheer me up? So then she got up and she went back to the head and was like, no, I'm not doing this. And that to me was that big thing. She was like, what's the worst thing that can happen? Like, I'm already upset. I'm going to be stuck doing something that I don't want to do, like killing my weekend this weekend. And the head kind of listened to her and was like, do you know what? You're right. You can have a full day's PPA to get it all done. And she was like, okay, perfect.
But then what you've just said there it is so common. I think like getting to the root cause of why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Very rarely is anyone gorging, because I know I'm talking for Hayden and I here. We're the same thing. We'll sit and gorge because A, we just are bored, or B, because we're masking something, like you said. And what's going to actually solve that problem? It's never ever eaten a whole bar of chocolate. Never ever have I eaten a whole bar of chocolate and gone, do you know what? I feel fantastic now. Like, that never ever happened. So what you're saying, I think, leads into that kind of well-being of teachers, because unless you're going to change your attitude in school, that cycle is always going to continue, because what you said there, that person broke that cycle, which in turn not only saved their workload that weekend, but broke the cycle of the diet as well.
Yeah, and that's it. And that to me is where they're super, super linked. Like that all or nothing.
Yeah.
It generally comes because you start telling yourself, like, oh, I have to do it this way. I have to do it this way. I have to do it this way. We're learning, like, 200 calories for a chocolate bar is nothing. And that's why I think the first thing I said as well, the more you tracking your food without dying, give yourself a really big limit, you just start seeing food for what it is. And you're like, oh, okay, that's not that bad. Because the best way to get in shape is to have all that stuff in your diet, to have that bit of balance. And you start to realize that, like, it's not the chocolate bar that does it. It's those big, long things where you fall into those bad routines of ordering the takeaways. Like, your average takeaway is like 4,000 calories. And people will nail that in one sitting. And there's nothing wrong with having one. But when you have one on a Tuesday night because you're tired, that's when it comes to problem. And that's the cut you cut out by just having that little bit of thought process with it.
I think you've nailed that, because I definitely experience that all the time. And we've both just had babies, right? And I remember on the lead up to this being like, this is going to be my catalyst to sort myself out. And here I am, bigger than ever, right? Because I'm just more sort of exhausted and knackered than ever. And I find my biggest barrier is that routine. It's like that ability to maybe think a little bit ahead as well. And it will get to dinner time and it's like, well, I haven't thought about it until now. And now it's too late really to sort this out, or just get a takeaway. Or like this morning, I'm going to embarrass myself here, right? This morning I got up and I was like, well, I need to eat something. But I haven't really got time. We had a meeting earlier on. I was like, I've got to eat something. Didn't have anything sorted for breakfast. So I had a packet of crisps and I had the rest of a Milky Way Christmas bunny that was in the fridge. And I ate it and I thought, what is wrong with me? I loved it, but I hated myself. I was like, what is wrong with me? Why? No, is routine, do you think, one of like the biggest barriers for teachers? Because they just
I think it always makes me laugh with routine, because realistically, teachers should be the best at it. Yeah. Because that's like half the job. Yeah. But it's like, because it's so much in school, you're like, oh, I don't want to do it at home.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the big thing. Like, routine's massive for just getting in shape. The more routine, the more structure you have, the easier it all becomes. Because and everyone I work with, I always talk to them about, like, right, 10 minutes on a Saturday or Sunday, sit down and just think, what food am I going to eat this week? What days have I got free to go to the gym or to go on a walk? What do my school days actually look like? Because there's no point in every Monday you say, right, every Monday I'm going to go to the gym straight after school, but you have staff meeting which goes on, which is, well, say it's meant to go on till 4:30, but it always goes on till 5:30. then that eats into, then you're in the rush hour traffic, you're not getting home till like 7, and then you go, oh, can't be bothered, and then it spirals. Where if you look at that before and think, well, there is no way like Mondays are ever going to work.
Yeah.
Tuesdays, though, I have my PPA. I'm out the door by 3:30 straight away. That's a great day for me to go. And it's those little things with that planning which I think make it so easy. And even when it comes to food, I am a very big advocate for anyone I work with and for everyone that even though it's nice to have variety, we all pretty much stick to the same meals.
We do.
So like breakfast and lunch, I would rather have the same thing Monday to Friday so that I can get it ready on autopilot. And that was especially when I worked in schools.
It's so true.
Like I used to have chicken, sweet potato and veg every single day. I did it for like 5-6 years. And it was literally because still living at home, I'd come in, I'd put the chicken and sweet potato in the oven with some frozen veg on top, put it in the oven. I knew it took 40 minutes. I'd go upstairs, I'd get changed, I'd walk the dog for half an hour, I'd come back in, I'd take that out, I'd put it on the side. That was done. And it took me 40 minutes from coming in the door from work to having my lunch done and the dog walked.
Yeah.
Now, if I decided every day, like, oh, I will think about what I want to have tomorrow, it would probably take an hour before I did anything. And then that's an extra hour you've got to find from somewhere to go on the dog walk. So then I'm not going to the gym because I've got to cook and I've got to do the dog and I've already been in an hour.
But it's that what you've done though. Yeah, you've taken almost that cognitive load out. And that's something the teacher have is my brain's full from school constantly. Yeah. And what you've done there, and I think my healthiest I've ever been was when I was more organized with my morning and lunches. That is, as a teacher, for me, what goes out of the window. Because sometimes I think in the morning, oh, well, I didn't get time last night because I was just stressed. I didn't have my plan in place. So in the morning, I can either stay in bed for another 15 minutes or I can prep some food. Oh, you know what? I'll stay in bed and then I'll go to school. I'll just nip to the shop at lunchtime and grab something, always on an impulse when I'm hungry. So it's never good. My best ever period of health in school was when every morning I woke up and I just put an egg on, took 5 minutes. I had egg on toast every morning. And every lunchtime, like you said, I had chicken and veg. And that was because I made that choice that's it. I don't need to worry about it in the future now. And I put it into a routine. And then dinners, we sorted that out as we went. That was something that we could liaise with and then discuss. But what you're saying there, I think is really powerful. The only problem is when I fell off it, and like what Hayden was saying, it's getting back on that train. And I think what you seem to do really well for people is that accountability almost.
Yeah, and accountability is massive. And I think staying on it is just having that little 10 minutes. And it's making it all super, super simple. Like you literally knowing that someone's there to check, I think is massive. But two other big ones are taking them 10 minutes to go. So like, I think you can, if you kind of fall an offer on the Wednesday, but it's near enough made, you can kind of suck it up till Friday and just have that. And I'd find it very hard to go into the next week with it, and that's when you probably properly fall off. But if you just take 2 minutes at the weekend and going, okay, like, I don't really want egg on toast anymore for breakfast. What could I have which is similar calories and, you know, oh, okay, I could have that. That's pretty same. And I would say at the minute, like, we live in an age where it's perfect as well. Because, like, that chat GPT, you can literally put into that. Like, you know, you can say, I have an egg on toast. It works out at 250 calories and 10 grams of protein. I don't really want to eat that anymore. Can you give me 10 other ideas with calorie breakdowns, which are simple to make, which are the same? Put it in, and then you go, oh, I quite like that. Do you know what? It's just little things.
Yeah. AI is kind of come in handy for that sort of thing. I've got a question for you. It's age-old question. It's probably a bit cliche, but I'm going to ask anyway. What's more important, diet or exercise? And that's an open question, so you can.
I think it depends on what you want to do, if that makes sense. That would be the big one. I think if someone wants to lose weight, you do not need to do any exercise. You can do it by just tracking your calories.
I like this.
And if you want to lose weight, that's the simplest way. But to me, I think where they're both really important, where exercise kind of takes more of that, is where you want to be later in life. So I'd say if you're just looking to lose some weight, focus on your calories, drops off, perfect. But as you get older, like, and that's what I've noticed a lot when I'm kind of looking, like, especially like my granddad, as he got older into his 90s and stuff like that, it's like, I want to be able to get up by myself for my entire life. I don't want anyone else in control of my life from that sense. So to me, like, lifting weights is incredibly important, because if you're lifting weights, you're growing and keeping that muscle. And when you get to 30, I think we lose 1% of our muscle every year, which doesn't sound too much. But when you get to 90, that's a hell of a lot of your muscles gone. If you're building it and keeping it there, you're just
So is that 1% if you don't do anything? Is that the idea?
Yeah, like if you
don't do anything, you
just natural kind of you're just walking. If you're doing resistance training, you're building it, it's keeping it, and then that just keeps your muscle for later on. And to me, that's where I think it is. Like, losing weight, it's all about food.
Yeah,
exercise doesn't matter. Like, I go to the gym, lift weights for about an hour. I reckon I would be lucky if I burn 200 calories in that session.
Yeah. You're not doing it to lose weight.
Yeah, you're not doing it to lose weight.
Exercise is like an investment, basically. That's like an investment into your future health, and diet is like that. Not instant fix, but like more short term. Get your body looking how you kind of want it to look in terms of like fat control, that sort of stuff.
Oh, 100%. I think I was going to say the interesting thing is, though, as well with it, is even though nutrition is like short term with it, obviously the more muscle you have, the more calories you burn. So like later on, if you keep doing it, so I think a perfect example is 10 years ago when I started training. I think my calories that I burned worked out at, like, if I wanted to be in a calorie deficit, it was about 1700 calories. Where I've had like 10 years now of training, building muscle, getting bigger. Now, if I go into a calorie deficit, I look at about 2,700 calories.
Wow.
You know, because I've got more muscle, so it's burning more. I'm more active because I do more steps and stuff like that. And it's that kind of thing. So, as I say, want to lose weight, diet, longevity, exercise.
Yeah. Do you ever, when you're working with your clients, do you ever advise them to maybe not do it all at once? Like, if they don't really enjoy the gym, maybe it's like, okay, let's just get your diet under control for a couple of months first, so you feel good about yourself for a bit, and then you might feel like, oh, maybe I should go to the gym because now, you know, I'm looking better. I do want to tone it up a bit now. Or do you kind of go in with the whole like, let's get both going straight away. Let's get a routine.
No, I think it's, don't get me wrong. I think it's important to be active, but active can be going for a walk. And that's like the minimum I always want people to do. Yeah. Go on a couple of walks a week, because I think it's brilliant for your mental health as well.
Yeah.
But the big thing is, like, I think you've got to meet everyone where they are. And I think that's the big thing. And I think it's a lot like the kids in the classroom. Like, you know, it's teaching everyone the same theory, but then actually looking and going, okay, where do we need here? What do we need there? You know, you don't put, like, you want it kind of like how the, you know, differentiation works, where you've got the ones at the bottom, you've got the ones who are a bit higher up, but you could, as long as they can still get there, it's fine. But
that makes sense.
Wouldn't put them on the top. You wouldn't say, right, everyone skip to the top ones, and then be like, why are you crying? What do you mean you can't do it?
Now listen, I need all the support sheets, and I need the PA's help as well. I might even need to do a little intervention group with you after. That's where I'm at. So it makes sense to me. You're speaking sense.
Martin, I've got a question, because it's linked now, but I suppose I just wanted to pick your brain a bit now. We've had a bit of a chat about, you know, the health side of it, a bit more about obviously the business side, and you know, you stepped into being a personal trainer from in the classroom. We've stepped away from full-time teaching now, but we still stay in education. We do a bit of tutoring, but we kind of both of us here, I suppose, are in that business world as well. And what's really interested me, and it's something we're trying to do as well, is your content you put out on your Instagram is really engaging. You know, the reels you put out, it it catches my attention always, and it's always got a really clear point. And I just wondering, basically, you know, what inspired that? You know, what kind of response are you getting from putting those things out there?
Yeah, I get a good response, to be fair. I have a few conversations with people from it. But I think it's all about learning and stuff like that. And I think it's that trial and error for me, especially when it comes to content. I remember going to a fitness event, and they had, I don't know whether you've ever heard them, Sean Casey there.
That rings a bell, but
He's
I'm not sure.
Irish. He's like 22, and it's absolutely sickening. He's like, he's got like, I think on all his socials, he's got like 5 million spread across them. Like he just puts videos up, and he just understands it.
Yeah.
And I went to one of his about 2 years ago. I was there. I hadn't heard of him before of it, but I saw him and I was like, oh. And someone went, how do you do all that in one go? And he was like, what do you mean? He was like I put the camera on and it's blank. And he was like, well, yeah, it would be for me as well, but I sit down and I write a script and I do it line by line and I make sure that it's right. And the minute he said it, I was like, oh, and then I watched a load of other people's videos, like James Smith and a couple of others, and I was like, oh, these videos are cut up. Because you're just listening, and that's the same with mine now. And I think it's just, to me, it's a lot like everything in life. You've got to put effort in.
Yeah.
And as long as you put effort in, that's all you can do with it. And it's about thinking about it. And to me, the ideas come pretty quick because I just think about what I needed 10 years ago as a teacher. Yeah. And I think about all the stuff I didn't know 10 years ago. And know that there's so many people who don't know that still because it's just not out there.
Teaching is one of those jobs where you really have to have done it to get it, I think. And when someone ventures out of teaching into another thing that could benefit teachers, I think that's so valuable compared to perhaps, I don't know, I'm not saying they can't do it, but let's say another PT who has no idea anything about teachers, but just says, I'm going to try and get teachers are going to be my market now. I just think you got to know what was going on in that world to really get it.
100%. I think you've got to know, and it's just, I always think the perfect way I describe teaching now is you are self-employed with a boss. You get all the stress of being self-employed, but you get none of the perks.
Yeah.
You're still on a set structure. You don't get to pick when and when you don't work. You've got someone breathing over you, but you also have all the stress of everything is on you. Everything has to be done by you. And there's some weird culture in schools as well, where if you don't make it yourself, then you are a failure. Could you imagine that with a chef? Could you imagine with a chef when they're like, oh, how did you bake that cake? Oh, well, I used them eggs. Where'd you get the eggs from? Have you got your own chickens? No, I bought them from the shop.
Oh,
not as good then, are you? No. And flour? Do you pound it all down yourself? No, I just bought. Oh, that's another point off.
Wow.
Could you imagine, the thing, don't use Twinkle unless you cut all the things off. I know teachers who have to take Twinkle. They're allowed to use Twinkle presentations as long as they make their own PowerPoint and just copy all the stuff over.
Just snip it in, yeah.
Teachers have got so much to do, and that's probably about a half an hour job.
Yeah. Over the years, have you, since doing PTing, have you, are there any stories or scenarios that have stuck with you where you've spoke to teachers and you've heard about their insane situation? Can you think of anything?
Do you know what? I will be honest. And I think this is another reason why afterwards I lean more on teaching. And it also probably fast-tracked me to being after my own health was the first school I ever went into. And I still don't think I've had a story that'll top it. Because the head there was, I will say, without a shadow of a doubt, the worst head that's ever being a school. And the worst thing about it is they offered him to like run other schools because they decided he was so successful. But I was an NQT. I went in and it was more on me, but I was like just happy to get a job and wasn't really thinking about it. It was a 1-form entry school where all of the teachers left in his first year. So he had to get a brand new staff.
That's such a classic purge, isn't it?
And I always remember there was like an induction day where you went in for a day and kind of you did it. And I was the last teacher to be hired. So all the others must have left and one was staying. And then they were like, I've had enough as well. I'm going. But he was really kind of like, oh, you know, some of them have gone on to leadership. Some just want a different career. Some are just going on to new ventures. I was like, oh, it's weird, but yeah, okay. Like I'd been in all good schools up until then. So I was like, oh, that's strange.
Yeah.
But everyone had their induction together just with him. And then I was later on. So I had mine and all the teachers were in the school. And I was like, I said, oh, can I go into the classroom for like half an hour? Like, he was like, yeah. Went in, and on the break, another teacher come in. They were both like about 50, 60. And this teacher comes in and he goes, oh, who's this? And she was like, oh, this is Martin. He's going to be taking over. He's one of the teachers taking over from us all. And he goes, oh, it's not right. It's not right. We've got to tell him. And she goes, no, like, I've just been speaking to Martin. It's his first job. Like, let him make his own decisions up. And he goes, no, it's not right. Like, we got to tell him. We got to tell him. And she was like, don't. And he goes, fine. And he walks out the door. And I went, what's that about? And she was like, oh, don't worry about it.
That's why I'm not telling you.
No. So he was basically going to tell you, don't work here.
Yeah, he was going to go, don't go.
Yeah. Wow.
I was working on, I hadn't got a job. I got it like the last week before before schools finished. So I'd signed up with a supply agency. The supply agency I'd set up, then I rang them. I was like, oh, I've got a job. He was like, where is it? He was like, oh, great, congratulations. And then he rang me later on to be like, don't go there.
Wow.
He was like, I couldn't say on the work line, but don't go there. And I was like, that's a bit weird, but I'll ignore that. I missed like every warning sign, went in. Yeah. I lasted 3 weeks and was just like, nah, I'm not. I can't do any more of this.
Really? What was it? Was it just everything, or was it?
He was. I think he taught for 2 years before coming ahead, and he just didn't understand any of it. The two biggest ones for me, well, 3 really. Oh no, 4. I was there 3 weeks and there's 4 things. First one was he wanted a history 6-week midterm plan. And I did it, sent it over, kept saying, can I have more detail? Can I have more detail? Can I have more detail? It was 42 pages long by the end. And again, it was the first proper medium term plan I'd done.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, this must just be what they are. And I didn't know how bonkers that was till I was doing supply somewhere. And they said, oh, we're looking for a teacher to do long-term supply. Have you got any examples of any planning you've done? And I went, oh, yeah, I've actually got one here. On my emails. I'll print it off. And I printed it off.
There's no paper left.
And it got to like 12 pages in. And this deputy just went, how long's this midterm plan? And I went, 42 pages. And he went, why have you done a 42 page?
Yeah.
But he was like, oh, I guess this'll do. Like he was like, he wanted it like, he wanted all your plans in, and he literally wanted like minute by minute breakdowns of the lessons. Yeah. And then all your plans had to be up on the wall. So it had to be up on the wall with your timetable. Oh. And he would randomly walk in your room and he would like make a point of like looking at where you were on the timetable and be like, oh, maths. And then he would get the plan out. He would go to like week 3. Then he would get his watch out and he would look what time it is, and he would look at the plan.
No.
And then he'd be like, hey, excuse me, Mr. Malone. And you go, yeah, you okay? You go, the children should be on, it says here, at 10:20, children will be on activities. It's 10:21 and you're still on the carpet. Do you mind let me know why? And you go, oh, because like they haven't quite got it. So go, yeah. Okay. After this, can you come and see me in my office, please? And then he'd be like,
is that in front of the kids?
Yeah. So I was like, Jesus Christ. And then I had a lesson observation, and I think we lasted. They come in, they sat down, they were in for like, good morning, children. This is what we're going to do. Literally the input, which he'd already ticked off as like, that was fine. Like that week and the massive amount of plans we'd done. He's like, oh, okay. They went out. And I was like, oh, that's a weird lesson observation. And then the deputy come back and said to the TA, oh, excuse me, miss, can you take over the lesson for a minute? We just want to speak to Mr. Malone. And then I went in and we had a half an hour like chat about my 2-minute lesson. Like,
oh my goodness.
And then the last one he did was, and this is again all in 3 weeks. The last one he did was he wanted to start a war with the TAs. So he used to say in the staff meetings, like, just letting you all know, lots of you are NQTs. Your starting salary is like 22 grand. Just letting you know, some of the TAs, because they've been here so long, are on 25 grand. And I always think that's wrong, that TAs get more than teachers. And we really need to be like one against them and really like let them know that teachers are better. And I was like, okay, this is weird.
Yeah.
But then your governors, you had to have the teaching one, which was his deputy, and then he wanted his secretary, who was like his best mate,
yeah, of course,
to be the other one. But they all have to vote. And they said, we cannot let her be it. We have to have one of us on that governors. So they all, like, there was 8 of them, they all banded together and went, right, if we do this, we all have to do it, because if it's just a few of us, he will just go after them. So they all did it as one. They put this one up and he said, such and such won, but I've been having a think, and some of you handed me the votes for other people, like you handed me 3 at once in the sealed envelopes. How do I know they weren't tampered with? So what I would like is each one of you to come to me during the day and tell personal. Me face to face who you want to be your representative on the governors. And so they did it again.
Power move, isn't it?
Yeah. So they did it again, and they kept it, and they stood up to him that way, and they got their one on. But like when I left, I was like, oh my God. And then when I started in like my next school, where I ended up there for like 9 years, because it was just a nice, really relaxed and really good. The more I was there, I was like, that was bonkers. Like that was just bonkers. A man. And I think out of 7 teachers that he had in my year, 4, including me, 4 went that year. And the other 3, I think, went like 6 months into the next year.
That's a red flag. It's a red flag. Teacher turnover is always, to me, the number one thing now. Yeah. Now I'm more experienced. I'm like, okay, if teachers are happy in the school, I think it takes a lot for a teacher to jump ship after a year. I think, you know, a teachers are the kind of people who, if it's not quite right, they will stick it out. They'll tend to do that. And for the kids and stuff like that. If it's not happening and there's a turnover, I think it's a big red flag. And the one thing I take from that story is, obviously everything's awful, but it's the way it seemed to me like he kind of took advantage of you being an ECT. And I see that a lot, that inexperience of ECTs now who get hired and are just hired en masse by heads like this, where the turnover is huge. They can save money on a cheaper ECT. They can try and mold them and overwork them and make them think, oh, this, 60-hour week, that's just what teachers do, isn't it? And it just doesn't have to be that way.
In fact, I remember like the year, I don't know whether ECTs, I presume they do as well, but like doing the NQT, you had to have like a folder, didn't you?
Yeah.
And you had to go through it. And I got a verbal warning, which would be a written warning if it wasn't in by the next morning, because the deputy come and said, Martin, I need your folder right now. And I said, I don't have it. It's at home. And she said, during school hours, your folder must be on you at all times, and take this as a verbal warning that you don't have it. And I was like, and it always makes me laugh, because in the next school, I said to the head of my mentor, I said, because he said, I started supply and then got a full-time one. When I started the full-time one, then they were like, okay, we'll do your thing with you. And I was about 3 weeks in, and we were meant to have a meeting, and I went, I forgot my folder. And they went, don't worry, you don't need to do that. And I went, what do you mean? I went, you're fine. Like we'll just sign that you've got one. Never
we'll
did
just
one.
Put it down as a verbal warning.
Never did one. Just went, that's fine. He said the folder is just at the end. They will say, is this folder good enough? And we'll just say yes.
That's one of the things that we talk about in this podcast quite a lot, about the inconsistency of this job. And it's just being completely potluck what your job actually entails, depending on where you go, because it's just so subjective everywhere. You have the national curriculum, then it's like, off you go, schools, do it how you want. And you could just work somewhere that's horrendous, like you said, or you could work somewhere really great where they manage your workload. But anyway, going full circle, obviously, that was a really, really good chat about your role now outside of school. I'd like to summarize, if that's all right with you, a set of tips, I guess, easy tips that I think you could give our listeners to take away from this podcast if they're thinking about sorting themselves out like I am. Maybe it's just a bit of diet, maybe losing a bit of weight, maybe they want to get more fit, invest in their future, like you've sort of convinced me to do actually in this episode. What would you do? What would you say your easy tips are to follow to get started today with this journey?
Yeah, I think to get started today, I think the first big one for teachers is planning. And I would say for teachers, it should be the easiest thing in the world. Like, it's literally half the job anyway.
Not 42 pages?
Yeah, not 42 pages. Literally just sit down, just think about the food that you want to eat. And then think, when you're thinking about that food, like, do you enjoy it? I think too many people get caught up in, is it healthy? When you're thinking about, do I enjoy it? I think that's massive. Like, you were talking about grabbing a Tesco meal deal and stuff like that earlier. Like, you can get a Tesco meal deal. The average one's like 700-800 calories when you're adding in, like the snack and stuff like that. 700 calories would be like 200 grams of chicken, 400 grams of potato, like with like sauce or gravy on top with veg. Like, it would be a massive meal that you'd enjoy and always want to eat. And it's just taking that little bit of thought process there. Then I'd say, when it comes to it, just make sure you do something. So going for a walk can be massive. Making sure that you're just getting that fresh air. Listen to a podcast like this, listen to something that really kind of gets you going. And then the last one, which is a killer for most teachers, is sleep and water. Like, start with those basics of just having a cut-off point, saying I'm going to bed now, and drinking actual water. So many teachers I know who from 8 till 3 just will not drink anything, because then they'll need the toilet. Where I always had a TA, so I was lucky, but the year I didn't have a TA, I just kept sending for the head. I kept sending for him, and within 2 weeks there was like a policy of what to do when you needed the toilet when you were by yourself.
Yeah,
he was like, right, okay, we need this, because I was like, oh no, I'm gonna still drink my 1.5 liters of water in school.
Yeah,
yep.
And if it's little things like that, like the more you're standing up for yourself, the more you're focusing on you, I think the better. And it's just at the start, keeping it very, very simple.
Brilliant. Martin, mate, this has been a really good chat. We really appreciate your time,
Oh,
mate. It's
thanks.
really helpful. And we're going to try and take some of these tips right now. So we really appreciate it, mate.
Oh, no, I've really enjoyed it. I think the more people chat about this stuff, the better, because it's behind all smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
And that's the trouble with it. And I think the more people just focus on just improving a little bit each time, building it up, the better it gets.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing.
What we'll do is we'll put your Instagram handle and all your socials in the description. So, guys, if you're listening to this, you think, oh, this is interesting, and you want some really cool, clear tips, Instagram is the place to go. Teachers PT, is that right?
Yeah, the Teachers PT, yeah.
Brilliant. Amazing. We'll link it down below. Martin, thanks again, mate. Brilliant.
Oh, no, thanks
Cheers.
for having me.